I would love to welcome you all out to Katie Garry's amazing session on sticky questions, a coffee hour. It is going to be wonderful, and I am super excited to have you here with us. And so without any further ado, Katie, here's to you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming today, for giving of your morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are in the world. What we're going to get through today in this coffee talk is a lot of time with you guys spending with each other. We're going to have a lot of breakout rooms, and you'll be with your same breakout group the entire time. So that way you can get a taste of real CPSI, in-person CPSI, and the relationships that are built and established in that way. But also so you can help each other sort of problem solve and kind of reevaluate and ask yourselves these questions. So really, these sticky questions to help get you unstuck is really just around like self-evaluation. We are going to be using a tool called an empathy map. And typically an empathy map is something that is used to relate to and draw a relationship to someone else. It's used a lot in marketing to get to know a consumer, and a lot of other ways to figure out how you might relate and understand someone else's perspective. But I think it's a really valuable tool for us to look inward. And this past year, the pandemic or multiple pandemics have been really hard on a lot of people. It's caused many of us to reevaluate where we are, what we want to be doing, where we want to be going. And so often when we find ourselves at these crossroads, we can kind of be stifled by that uncertainty that's in front of us. And this is a good tool to kind of pause, reflect, and kind of see where you are, so then you can determine where you want to go. I was sharing with the smaller team before, I used this subconsciously after I got laid off in 2018. It was a real big disruption to my life. As if you've been through an experience like that, you might understand. And it really was a tool that helped me find a way to stop chasing what I thought I should be doing and to start choosing what I wanted to do. So that mantra of stop chasing, start choosing has really been a thread for me for the past 3 years as I've had my own business now. And I just want to reference back, if you were able to hear the kickoff for CPSI yesterday, just talking about growth. And I think that this is a great session for really looking at how we define growth. Jane yesterday talked about growth can mean a lot of things. It can mean becoming bigger, being the bigger person in a situation, truly growing in size, like my 6-year-old did over the past year, like 4 inches. What? It was wild. Growth can be learning something new, and it can come from trying something new and different. So I hope that's the growth that we get from today, is this self-reflection and trying something new and different that we might not have done before. But we can't grow unless we figure out where we've been planted, right? What are the conditions that we're in? Are we being well tended? Do we have all the nutrients we require? Do we have the proper support in place? So as we walk through the tools, we'll keep those in mind, and we'll think about how we can grow through asking these questions as well. So Beth, you can advance to the next slide, please. So yeah, feeling stuck, who isn't, right? Like I said, it's been kind of a wild ride, but we'll uncover these powerful questions that you can ask so you can get yourself unstuck. Go ahead. So first, what I'd like you all to do is just kind of identify an issue that maybe you've been facing. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be as big or small as you think it is. And don't think about what anyone else might consider your issue to be. Your issue could be that you're frustrated because the dishes never make it into the dishwasher. And or your issue might be you don't know what you want to do career-wise. Both of those are valid. Both of those are equal. Both of those are important. And if the dishes is what your true issue is, use it, go with it. We're not going to be comparing and kind of judging each other's issues. In the CPSI mindset, we're deferring judgment, right? So whatever it is that you're kind of facing, just kind of pocket that, jot it down on your journal, or if you had a chance to print out the handout, you can use that as well. And I think they'll be dropped in the chat as well if you need to reference that. We're going to introduce the tool of the empathy map. Then we're going to use the tool. We're going to spend a lot of the time today using it and going through it. And this is where your breakout groups are going to come into play and where your relationships with one another will hopefully flourish and grow as well. We're going to journal our experience through the handout or through your own journaling. And then at the end, we'll hopefully have about 5 or so minutes at the end to share out our experiences, only if you want to. I know that being in such a large group with some friends, some strangers, some yet to be friends can be overwhelming. So, but we'd invite any of those of you who are willing and wanting to share of how this went to do that. So Beth will go ahead to the tool, please. Oh, well, we'll stop here. So this is how we set up. So just again, jot down something you've been struggling with. Your challenges are unique and valid to your experiences. So again, just reinforcing that. Spend 2 minutes writing about that problem you're facing, and we'll use the breakout rooms to discuss with your group kind of what you guys are all dealing with. We can go on to the next slide, please. And so this is the empathy map tool we'll be walking through today. We'll take some time to set up each of these spaces, and you'll be able to fill out this whole sheet by the end, really understanding your issue. And that circle in the middle is you, or the issue you're facing. So go ahead and jot down what that is. You can draw a picture, you can use words, whatever articulates what you're dealing with as best to you. Go ahead and we'll just take a couple minutes to jot that in first. And Beth, if you want to start some sweet thinking tunes, that would be great. I could sing until those get going, but I have a cold, so I will save you all.
Think sweet music while I get that all set up. Move a couple things around.
No worries. We'll just use this time as problem solving, which is perfect. And then we'll have it for the next piece. So you've written down what it is that you're dealing with. I'd like, we'll go ahead and send to breakout rooms so that we can meet who you're going to be working with for the session. And you guys can talk about what you've been facing and what problem you're looking at solving. And we'll have just a couple of minutes for this first breakout room. Dashes.
I just had a comment about that.
Welcome, everyone. Hopefully you all had a great opportunity to get to know the people in your breakout rooms. Maybe it was someone you've met at a past CPSI. Maybe it was all someone new and a new relationship to be forged at this year's virtual CPSI. But hopefully you had a good opportunity to discuss what that center issue, that problem that you want to solve is. Because now we're going to move on to the next part of kind of really evaluating what are the things that you're thinking and feeling, right? So we're going to walk through lots of different sensorial things. What do you see? What do you hear? Those will come later. So really try hard to focus on what are you thinking? What does your head say? And what are you feeling? What does your heart say about this? Whatever that issue is at the center, what really counts? What is keeping you up at night about this? What are your worries? And what are your aspirations? And I would challenge you to, often when we're in this thinking and feeling space, at least for me, I tend to go to a worst case scenario. It's like, well, what if, our STEM starters for CPSI, right? What if X, Y, and Z? And we tend to go to that negative what if, like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fall on my face? What if I blah? And it's like, well, what if I soar? What if it does work? So if some of those things are what you're thinking, if you're in that negative thinking space, I'll challenge you in this next couple of minutes as we are self-reflecting to how do we put a positive spin on what we're thinking. It might not be what we're thinking right now, but how can we push ourselves to think broader? And the same with our feelings. If we're feeling a certain way, how might we open ourselves up to be feeling something different? So take the next couple of minutes, we'll play some tunes and stay here as a bigger group to kind of journal and write down those things that we're thinking and feeling about our situation in the center. And then we'll go to our breakout rooms to discuss. So we'll put on some music for you for a couple minutes. And this is a time to be really honest with yourself, to really look at your situation objectively and to own your emotions and own your thoughts. We're taking a look at what we're going through and kind of taking a meta look at this. How do we step outside of our own bodies, outside of our own minds, and really consider, what are we thinking about this? How are we feeling about this? Take just a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds to kind of jot down your thoughts and feelings. And then we will move to the breakout rooms in about 30 seconds. Whenever Beth decides to push the button, she's in charge.
Melted into a.
Welcome back, everybody. We should be in a place now where we're developing really closer relationships with one another in these breakout rooms, and hopefully diving a little bit deeper into understanding where we're coming from with this issue that we're kind of uncovering. The next sort of sense that we're going to explore, Shell, yeah, I know, right? What happens in the main room when everyone's at the breakout, right? We're moving into the next sense of hearing. So the hearing can come through what we hear ourselves say, that self-talk, but it also can be if you've shared this, or if this issue that you're dealing with is a shared problem or a shared situation. Maybe you have had conversation with friends or family. What are they saying? What are influencers, not like social media, I'm an influencer, what are they saying? But what are people who you look to for influence? What do they say? If your issue is something that there's someone who you trust outside of family and friends. Also, if you could give your emotions around what you're facing a soundtrack. What is that music that's playing? Is it uplifting? Is it ominous? Is it just kind of monotonous? Or is there a lot of rhythm and change? So what are the sounds that you hear? What are noises? Is it just a scream? Are you just completely stressed and just letting it all out? Because that's great. Is it a whisper? Is it something that's just kind of nagging and slowly pulling you or pushing you in a direction. So what are all the sounds that you're hearing? And we'll spend 2 minutes here just kind of self-reflecting and jotting that down. And then again, another 3 minutes in our groups. So we'll start our 2 minutes now. When I think back to the situation I shared before of being laid off from a job, the things that I were hearing, I heard silence, because for so long I had been surrounded by so many, but found myself in a place where I was alone or felt alone. I heard kind of chatter. It was my perception, my projection of the situation that maybe people were talking about it. If you've ever been part of a reorg, you can't, it's something that's talked about. So that chatter was something that I heard. But I also heard kind of those whispers that I talked about, whispers of hope, and also whispers of doubt. And those two things that are different can coexist in this space. So what are those sounds that you hear? And I'll be quiet now so you can hear them more clearly. Beth, I haven't been keeping an eye on the clock for the 2 minutes, but if it feels like it's been that long, we can go ahead and send everyone to breakouts. Kind of talk through what are the sounds that you're hearing.
Yeah.
All right, we're all back, Katie.
All right, great. So again, I hope you are all able to, forge deeper relationships with one another, talking through, building off of each other. The next sense we're going to move to is see. So what do you see? Like physically, what is around you? When you close your eyes, what do you see? Oftentimes our mind's eye allows us to see things a little bit more, a little bit differently than when we open our eyes wide and experience kind of the world around us. So what is your home? What is your environment? Again, when we think about how might we grow into or away from or above whatever this situation or issue is, what is the environment serving that growth? What do we see now? And let's just look and observe. What does the market offer you if your issue is something that is more job related? And quite literally, what is in front of you? What do you see? We might be able to draw some really interesting conclusions by what we're surrounding ourselves with. So we'll, again, take a couple minutes to jot down our own self-reflection of that, and then join our group for 3 more minutes as well.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. So we are getting to the final piece of this empathy map that we're looking inward. So we've explored our thoughts and feelings. We've explored what we see and what we hear. Now it's time to look at our actions. What are the things that we are doing in relation to the situation? And what are the things that we're saying? What is our attitude in public and in private? What's our appearance? If we are stressed or in duress or hopeful, how we might take care of ourselves might look differently. What's our behavior towards others? Are we short? Are we open? Are we closed off? How are you interacting? What are those things that you're doing and saying? And within, this one's really deep, so we'll give a little bit more time to both write yourself and to talk with your group. But let's really take a step and look at, what are those points of pain for us? What are we afraid of? What are our fears? What are our frustrations? What are the obstacles that are blocking us in this situation? What's holding us back from making this a success or pushing us to where we want this to be? And on the flip, what do we have to gain? What are the assets we have available to us to support us in solving this issue and moving a step forward? What are our wants and needs, and how might we achieve them? How might we measure the success? What does success look like? So we'll take about 4 minutes to kind of write through that. And then we'll give you guys at least 5 or 6 minutes together in the group. Maybe a little longer, I'm feeling a little generous, but I definitely want to make sure we can pull back together and kind of talk as a big CPSI family at the end too. I know we all like to share and to debrief, so we want to make sure we have time to do that more broadly. And I'm really curious to know where this journey has taken you all. So we'll start the music and start our quiet reflection. And then we'll join our groups in about 3 minutes now. All right, everybody, thank you and welcome back. So we have fully completed our empathy map at this point, which is amazing. We're gonna move on to the next slide and just kind of open this up for everybody. It wouldn't be CPSI if we didn't ask ourselves, so what and now what? So, and this is kind of where we're gonna spend the last time, all of us together kind of talking through. I will definitely want you to, after this session, take some time to flesh this out a bit more for yourselves. But what are just some of your takeaways? You don't have to share your issue with the broad group, but what is your so what? What did you take away? And what's your now what? What are you going to do? So I'd love to hear from anyone who's willing to share. And you can do that if you'd like to, rather in the chat versus vocally, or we'd love to have you chime in as well. So just take yourself off mute and we'll just kind of chat through. Bueller.
This is Kirk Young. For me, it was really insightful in the what do you hear phase of things, and I was looking at just opportunities moving forward, and I started to list what I was hearing from others and so on. And I've been fixated on kind of the obstacles, the challenges, the negativity regarding a future opportunity or choice. But anyway, as I was listing what I hear, I realized that the only person that I'm hearing discouragement and negativity from is myself. Mm. And as I was listing everybody else, I mean, I'm convinced that, right, it's a negative and it's a challenge and it's almost impossible to overcome. And then I realized I'm the only one saying that. Mm. And so that was really helpful for me to make that realization and to list what I'm hearing from others and realizing that that what I'm saying in my head is so much different than what others are saying to me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Kirk. Anyone else kind of have an aha at any of the the phases.
Kirk, what you're saying resonated. We had a lot of conversation in our group about the imposter syndrome. Amy Cuddy has a whole chapter in her book Presence on it. And the idea that, oh, this is just too much. Nobody's going to want to do this. This is going to be too hard. And ultimately, you're absolutely right. The biggest critic in all of this and the work that we're doing is ourselves. If we could get out of our own way, I think is always the problem.
Thank you for sharing, Katie.
Katie, that's kind of Katie Berner. That's a kind of a callback to the session we just had that was talking about like failure and prototyping and, you know, things not working out the way they are, you know, reframing it as like prototyping and allowing people to come into that prototyping journey with you instead of needing to present only perfection.
I think that's a really compelling way of thinking about things too. The imposter syndrome, the perfectionism. Something else I've been looking into a lot more lately is the Enneagram. And I find that to be a valuable tool for how we interact and how we go through our days. And kind of, I'm a profile junkie. So of course we know our type here through CPSI, through Foresight, or you will if you're new this year. But then also layering on your MBTI and your Enneagram and all of those things. I think it helps you figure out how you interact. So it's a less, people can take it less personally and more, not academically, but you better know yourself, more self-awareness in how you might show up. So then that way it can help you kind of through some of the things that you might be facing. And perfectionism is a 1, and that's someone who really is driven for perfection. So I think there's some interesting overlays there, but I think we are just at time. Beth, I don't know if you want to, if anyone would like to get in touch after, I do have a contact slide I can share, you can jot down. It'll be in the handout as well that'll be sent out after. But I'm just so thankful for all of you to have attended this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whatever your time zone is, and for giving of your time and of your energy and of your support to each other and helping each other talk through what you might be facing and hopefully see some growth and some resolution, and just leave you with what happens when you've fully grown and how do you flourish once you've bloomed. So kind of take those away, overlay that over the issue that you're facing. And I can't wait to see what kind of germinates for you.
Oh my gosh, Katie, this was a fantastic session. I stand by my comment at the beginning. You're welcome for the Katie session. We are so enjoying how everything is going. And also, since Foresight came up, what? At 4 o'clock today, Eastern time, Sarah Thurber from Foresight will be presenting. So come back. All Foresight all the time.
It's almost like you plan the schedule with purpose.
I'm almost as smart as I pretend I am.
Well done, Beth.
As I Google Amy Cuddy's book, Audible, order. I got the nod from Katie Berner. She's like, yes, you're welcome. Please reach out to Katie. She also has a podcast, 6 Degrees of Segregation. So if you thought her radio voice is on point, it was. You can listen to her at any time. We have enjoyed having you here with us so much. Hope to see you back at 1 o'clock for Withology Applied, bringing diversity and inclusion into the design space. It's with Janine Hallowell and Nicole Flynn, and it's going to be fantastic. Other than that, go out, make good choices, and drink water. And remember, CEF loves you. Bye.